You look really comfortable.
I'm very comfortable.
I can see your shorts.
Whoa,
I can
hold
see your face.
Stop.
Up his shorts.
Stop what?
Well, welcome to Practical Shooting After Dark.
Oh, yeah, Joel's running the show today because I'm
Yes.
remote.
Yes. Pay attention. Be on your best behavior. It's like, whoa, I didn't know where this is going. Let's start this show up. I am your co-host, Joel. On deck, we have a man that needs no introduction, Matt Hopkins.
Steve Newell. Oh,
Hi.
Matt Hopkins.
Yes,
We're
Stevie.
clearly all on the same page here.
I don't feel like interview need an introduction as far as I'm concerned, but
No, Steve's on the podcast before. We call you what? PH, Steven with a PH. I call you
Stefan.
Stevie. Yeah, Stefan, Stevie. All these are terms of endearment, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. I don't really care.
Well, you're pretty likable.
Joel's funny today.
No, the funny thing is what Ben is drinking right now.
Yeah, are you drinking a fucking Truly?
Yes.
A lemonade Truly.
No.
Shut up, guys.
I didn't know you lost self-respect.
Oh, that was a long time ago, bro. It was, let me tell you about it. It was 1991, and there I was, and it was just gone.
Oh, okay.
7 years old.
Then my mom started beating me.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Ben.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, well, we have a bang up show. So
We do.
So today's going to be a little bit different than normal. Normally, everybody comes with the topic. 2 of you monkeys shot Area 8. Was that last weekend? Steve,
Yeah.
where's the hell's your video? I'm trying to get your video talk through for Practical Shooting Training Group that you said you were going to do, and that you clearly have forgotten about.
I'm
that one.
On it, bro.
He's working on it. Great. Great. So once that gets done,
it's coming.
that's going to be fantastic.
I'm trying to get my iPad running. It just fucked off on me today.
That's what Apple, like iPads, especially the new ones, like the one you got this year, they're known for not working properly.
Yeah,
So-
I've had problems with mine too. Like the only problem I've had is I guess if it runs out of battery, but as long as I keep it like charged appropriately, I just turn it on and it works. And if I wanted to do stuff, I just
This is
like,
what
hit the
happens
icon.
when he's sitting there trying to torrent the entire internet full of porn, and it's not working, and you've ruined your iPad, sir. So anyway, so after we talk about Area 8,
Just stop,
Steve, I should say the reason that I want your footage posted to Training Group, but I'd love your talk through and your thoughts to the extent that you're able to,
articulate.
Whatever. Yeah, that'd be great. Is because you had a really great performance. You won single stack by what? Something like 38% or something stupid.
It was a bit egregious. It was 11 and or it was 10 and a half, I think.
Who's counting? Doesn't matter. But you won. You won by a lot. So that I'd love to have that footage and see what's going on there. But
no, I'm working on
anyway.
It. iPad. I legitimately have tried to restore my iPad 4 times today, and it's failed every time. So I'm trying to address this issue.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you're on it. So fair enough. And then after we talk about Area 8, we got to catch up with questions. So I've got 4 of them sitting here that are varying degrees of interest, but there's at least there's something here for everybody. Let me tell you, we got an equipment question.
That's a good.
We
Ben
got
question.
helping at matches question. Yeah.
Reloading and equipment
we
questions
got,
would have been.
Yes. I do those. And a class taking question. That one's for Joel.
Okay.
Yes.
Taking question.
Yeah. You'll find out. You guys know the questions are always a surprise.
It'll be good. Yeah, but anyway, Area 8 was interesting. I've seen a lot of chatter about it online, saying it was really good, and apparently they had a good mix of short, medium, and long courses. I mean, I don't want to just tell me about it.
Seeing stuff online saying a match is good, but not really giving a reason that it was good, I typically ignore that. It's not to be taken seriously. But you guys have some specific reasons. I'd love to hear about it. So let's, Steve, why don't you tell us what you liked about Area 8? Because I assume you liked it, right?
Oh, no, I liked it. I thought it was a really good match. So the thing that made it kind of unique was they followed a 3-2-1 format like IPSC. So there was a lot of 12-round courses, but like in these little 12-round courses, they tested a lot of skills. Like you had a low port with some pretty far small poppers and some partial targets, and a swinger with a little activating sequence. and like I think that one was a 14-round course. So it was like there's a lot of different skills involved, but it was still very short.
So this is not to put words in your mouth, but I think, well, Hopkins, you've shot enough internationally, you know that the way we do short courses in the U.S. is typically pretty boring. It's like stand in a box, shoot the stuff.
Classifier.
A lot of times it's Virginia count. Yeah, but you're saying this was not that. This looked like international
100%.
IPSC style.
It was opposite of that. Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
It was really good.
So Matt, you also, so you would agree with that? You like
Yeah,
the rate,
so-
the 3-2-1. You like that?
I thought it was good, and I actually during the match I did not recognize it as a 3-2-1 match. I thought so. This is what I figured out after like walking the stages and thinking about them. I'm like, they set out to do a specific thing on each stage, or maybe two things, and they added zero fluff to it. So
Hey,
they literally,
can I make a confession to you guys that's on the same line?
yeah.
So I've done video. I do, you know, obviously a lot of video reviews. I think I've watched 4 or 5 people's Area 8 footage and given feedback on it. I did not realize it was a 3-2-1 until now that you're telling me. Like I wouldn't have picked that out.
So
Because I was just
not
watching
either.
the shooting and the stages. It all looked, you know, looked pretty interesting, looked good, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It-
All right. So
interesting.
sorry.
No, it was like I didn't recognize it as 3-2-1 until the after action survey they did, which was actually a very nice thing. They sent a survey monkey thing out to everybody and asked people to fill it out. So of course I did and sent feedback, and I actually didn't stay anonymous with it. I was very raw to them and told them like everything that I thought and everything, and then I actually included my name and email at the end so they could actually have some context to it.
So I do have a question about that, Matt.
Yeah.
So you two are probably a little bit different than the normal demographic, right? Very serious, higher level guys.
Yeah.
What do you think the average like Joe Bob C class thought about the ratio? Or did you get a sense of that talking to other people? I'm just curious.
I think that's above like other like the average person probably wouldn't have picked up on it. They probably
You think they didn't even notice where they're like, why are all these 12-round stages here? I
I
came here to
honestly don't
shoot.
think most people
It wasn't
would
like
have.
that?
They
Okay.
probably would have picked up more that there was no classifier style stages or standard stages than anything else. Because
Okay.
even the small courses had 2 positions and like different ways to go about it.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
I think the thing was, I don't know if they'd pick out round count. I think they would think that the match was limited because of bay size. They used bay size really well. Like the small bays, they put a 10-round stage on it, but they didn't like they had some big stages, but they were on the bigger bays. So I think that like people thought they were limited by the bay size. That's what I would think.
Interesting.
I think it's interesting they sent you guys a survey because if they went to all that hassle, that must mean they're actually interested in feedback. Because if I just wanted you to tell me how good it was, I'd be like, hey, Matt, did you have a good time? Like while I'm loading my magazines or something else, you'd be like, yeah, I had the best time ever. You're like, good. And you walk over to the next person.
This is telling you match directors are getting wise to the fact that non-specific positive feedback on social media is not to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
It's just, great match. It was amazing. What I mean, that shit means nothing.
No, but if they actually went to the hassle, like it's a pain to set up those surveys, that means they must be genuinely interested. And the option to stay anonymous means if you thought it sucked, you could actually say, hey, these are the things I didn't like. I wish this was different. So that's really good. I like that.
Yeah.
No, that's a very productive attitude on the match director's part.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So everything I dealt with the Area 8. So CZ sponsored it. Like they were very good to work with. Very open communication. Very easy to deal with. Like everything was good on that aspect of it. And I think they actually do care. Like even the after action survey kind of proves that.
No, definitely. That's fantastic.
The stages seemed like they had, they were well thought out. Like Matt said, they wanted to test a thing and they didn't just put in random bullshit to try to make it look like a fluffy stage. Like they would test one thing, and another thing they did well is there was options and like legitimate options, not like you can hit this steel from over here, but there's literally no reason to because I'm just going to get closer and it'll be in the
Yeah.
middle of the array. Anyways, there was like legitimate options. Like, I believe it was stage 5 on the left array. You could see these two targets at an angle, and you had to cross over them to hit all the targets in the array. And the second array was you were a bit closer, but you could just blow past that array and shoot this hardcover target on the move, and just never stop there had you chose to shoot it earlier. So that was like a legitimate decision. It wasn't like there was an objectively better solution there. So I thought that was really well executed by them. There was a lot of different ways to attack different stages.
And they had like another stage, I think probably 6 or something right after that stage Stephen was just talking about, or at the end, where you could shoot basically a mini popper at like 25 yards or 30 yards, or you could get that like through a 2-foot port like low on the ground, and it's only 10 yards away. Like, so that like there was options there, and I think that stage actually probably equaled out on which way you shot it.
I shot it through the low port because I was like, I'm shooting fucking iron sights in a low cap division, and it also would have forced me into almost a standing reload there. So
that was a lot. A lot of that one had to depend on the division. So I think all the high cap people shot it from the back, and no one shot through the port. Just because
Browning shot it from the low port too.
Oh, did he? Okay.
That was more of an iron sights versus dot decision on his end.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I did know that like that exact same thing, like it being a low port caused the shooters that were taller to not even consider it.
Yeah.
Because it was such a low port. So.
Yeah.
Plus, there's different ways to do it.
There was one other thing that I go ahead. Sorry.
What was that?
There's one other thing that I don't normally see at area matches. Am I correct? It was a 1 day only for shooting. There was no like an AM PM option. Is that correct?
No.
Tell me more about that and how did it go?
Honestly, I like it. I hate warming up and cooling off and then warming up again. Like, I would rather just get it fucking done in 1 day. The only downside I could see is I was trying to get into town the night before and then get out of town the same night I shot, but I couldn't find a plane flight late enough. The latest one I could find was 6:30, and it was an hour and a half away from the range. I was like, there's no way I'm fucking making that. So that was the only downside. Had I finished at noon, I could have just bounced that night. But
you would have been there another day too.
Yeah, exactly.
So what time of the day did you start and stop then? Were you like running out of daylight?
My squad finished at 3:30.
What?
We started at 8. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. What were squad sizes?
10, I think it was 10.
Oh, we had
a no-show.
We had 13 on our squad. We backed up to the squads in front of us basically on basically the first 7 bays out of 11 bays. And there was a weather delay on our thing. I think we were done by 4:30 though.
What day did you shoot, Matt?
Saturday.
Okay,
that's still pretty impressive.
Sunday we didn't have any weather things. There was one backup, but it was due to a stage getting thrown out. They had an inconsistent activation for a swinger, so they threw the stage out, and it was supposed to be a double bay. So now you have this 12-round course, and that led up to, I think, the longest stage of the match, which was the big arrow stage. Yeah. So it caused a backup there. I got lucky because I started on that 12-round stage, so I never had to wait.
Oh, that's nice. That's actually really good.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to wait on any.
You had like a little long pause. So Stephen mentioned them throwing out a stage because the swingers did not activate consistently.
Yeah.
Over the first day. So they threw that stage out on day 1 of the match. They didn't wait around and like see and like let people shoot it. Like as soon as they recognized it was an issue, they tossed the stage. So
how big of an issue do you reckon it was, Matt?
I have no idea. Like
so
I didn't even
from what I heard from talking to the people ROing that bay, in the first squad they had 8 reshoots because of that.
Yeah.
So they just
smoked it. That was a very wise decision, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And wasting
Instead of trying
everyone's time to shoot it. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of trying to save it or whatever, just like get it the fuck out of the match and move on.
Just amputate it now.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I thought it was a really well put together match. Everyone was kind of making fun of the big arrow stage because there was a lot of shots that were relatively close to the 180.
It was.
I think people are just kind of being pussies about it, really. Like,
well, maybe they don't want to get DQ'd, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, then don't break the 180. It's really fucking simple.
If you say so. We'll have a question coming up later on that topic that I think you might find interesting.
I think you had to kind of be on the
arms.
ground, but I did think the way that last array on the left was, I would say it was a little over the top. Like the way they did it, like you had to shoot like a target at 170 and then like go transition to 150 and then like work back to 170 on it. Like it was weird.
Yeah, it was a little weird. My issue with that stage, and this happened kind of twice in the match that I can remember off the top of my head, is there was some areas that were really congested with shooting, so it wasn't really fun for low cap divisions. Like essentially in that area at kind of the point in that stage, because the shooting area was an arrow at that back point, you're looking at 18 shots from that one position.
Oh baby.
And it just kind of felt shitty having to do, like, the plan was to do a standing reload. There wasn't really another plan, so that kind of felt shitty. And kind of the same with the stage that had the long shot. It seemed like it was almost a shoe-in to just do a standing reload to be optimal.
That was basically, that long shot one was basically two positions. And
yeah,
it was the front of the stage. Dude, honestly, it was though. I mean, really, like you ran to the front of the stage, and then you shot like 18 rounds, like nonstop.
Yeah.
Within like 3 steps.
Yeah.
Well, but
basically had to do another standing reload at the front because I'm shooting.
That's kind of been the way stage design's going lately, guys. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it was still more interesting than what I call boomer USPSA stages, which is just like 4 positions of 8 at like 3 yards. And then you have the old guys that are like, it's not a running sport, it's a shooting sport.
Nothing at this match was out of control or like anything like that. It was,
sounds good.
I was actually a really big fan of the
difference. Go ahead.
Oh, go on. So I was a really big fan of there's a unloaded start where you ended on like a wobbly platform.
Oh, yeah,
it was a relatively small stage, but it was a really fun one, I think, that had like there was a lot in it without it being a massive stage.
So one thing on that one I thought was interesting, like everybody got up and walked on the wobbly platform, like during the walkthrough, and then everybody that shot the stage and came off said it felt differently. So I don't know if you noticed it, Steven, but like when you got up on it and like the first movement of the platform like moved forward, and then like when it went backwards, it stopped abruptly, and it felt like someone stopped it. It was just weird. Like during the walkthrough, I didn't feel that or anything, but like during the shooting, I noticed it, and I was like, "Oh, that's a little weird."
I actually noticed it when I went for the last popper. I didn't notice it when I got on because I just came up and I just hammered that paper real quick because I was like, while it's settling, I'm just gonna shoot this paper. But after I shot the skunk on the left, and I kind of jerked my body over to get that last popper into view, I actually had a couple makeups because the platform was moving enough to actually screw up my sight picture on that.
Yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't like it was like probably a 4x4, 5x5 square box that was suspended.
Nice. Yeah. No, it sounds like you guys had a good time. I like it.
It was totally safe. I thought it was fair. Like it was 10 rounds on the platform, 6 rounds off of it, empty gun. Pretty interesting stage.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good stage.
No,
and my squad.
All right. So, do you have anything other comments about the match generally?
No, I was just gonna say I had fun with my squad. I squatted with Browning from AMU, who I was on the Marine Corps shooting team with. So we had a good time, just kind of messing around and having fun together. And I got to meet one of the guys on the Marine Corps shooting team who actually won carry optics.
Nice.
And
dude, yeah,
he was cool too.
No, it sounds like you guys had a good time.
He's a sandbagging motherfucker, though. He's a beat.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Sandbagging does not happen in USPSA.
All right, should we move on to the questions we have?
Let's do it.
Sitting? All right. I have a question for the podcast. I'd love to hear your answer and the guest answers as well. Other than your own, whose training class would you recommend for a serious USPSA shooter? Thanks. I'm really enjoying the podcast, books, and training group forum. So whose class would you recommend other than mine?
Joel.
Ben and I have talked about this privately. I want to get in a Mason Lane class, either Ben or I, for training.
Well, no, hold on. I can't recommend a Mason Lane class really because I haven't taken one. I'll be in one in October.
Correct. No, that's what I'm saying is I haven't taken one. I think I like Mason. He's quite good, and so I'm interested to see what his program is, but I haven't been in one of his classes yet. Otherwise, who else? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of good shooting instructors out there, and I think any instructor that's credible, if Matt asks me like, hey, should I go take this person's class? I'd be like, yeah, if you think they can teach you something, go.
Well, I mean, realistically, like, who's on the list as far as like guys that just do USPSA instruction, basically travel around and do it? There's like 4 guys or 5 guys.
Max, Mel, JJ, TPC.
Yeah, there's not that many, and I have people come through classes all the time that go to those other classes, and they seem more or less happy with them. Yeah, you know what I mean? They're like, yeah, I did this Max class last week, and I learned this and this, and it's like, yeah, okay, cool, like that's good. So I would say that. I mean, realistically, you're going to be, if you're like you live where you live, and if one of those people comes and has a class within 2 or 3 hours of you, and you have the money and the time, I don't like. Why not? Like, fuck it, go take the class. But as far as classes that I like, instructors, I push people towards. Man, I don't know. I tend not to. I don't even push people towards my own classes. So it's difficult for me to really push someone towards someone else's. What do you think?
I mean, I've taken a TPC class and a Max Michel class, and I was at very different levels when I took it. Like when I took TPC class, I was pretty much set in my techniques and everything, and I wasn't a fan of it because they were teaching their techniques, and I was like, I'm not gonna switch to these. Like I'm already set in my ways, you know. But when I took a Max class, it was like when I first started out. I'd been practicing for 3 months, and I took a Max class, so it was just like everything was new to me, and it seemed awesome. But that could have just been because I didn't know anything at that point. So
yeah,
it's hard for me to really give an accurate like assumption about it because of the classes I've taken. I was at such different levels at every point of the way.
The other thing that I think is quite important is the instructor and their personality. And if you like, so if you like watch any, I'll say something, I guess I'll take a stand. Any instructor, they need to be demoing stuff. I would not go to a class that the instructor doesn't have a gun or doesn't demo. And if you go to the class, so any instructor, hopefully if they're good, they're going to have some material online, Facebook, Instagram, like promo stuff. So you watch them shooting. If you like what you see, listen to them talk. And if you kind of like their program, you like the way they're talking, like Ben, you listen to Ben's, it's like, hey, it's kind of like, don't think about it too hard. He's good at breaking stuff down. It looks like, I see him, Ben can shoot well. So I'm like, hey, this looks like something interesting I'd want to take a class from. And it maybe on the other hand, you're like, hey, Ben's pretty good at shooting, but I think he's a jackass. Then maybe I wouldn't want to take a class from Ben.
There'll be a lot of that.
No, seriously, because Ben understands, like Ben's very good at shooting, but he's not a person maybe that
I just think he's an asshole. Yeah, then I would be like, okay.
Yeah,
and that's so it doesn't hurt my feelings any, but
My first class with Ben, there was a student at the end was like, can you just say something nice to me?
Ben's not that mean, for crying out loud. No, it's just an example at Ben's expense, but still, I think watching the instructor's material they have online, do you like their program? Do you like the way they're talking? Does that make sense? That seem like somebody you'd want to learn from? Because
I will say this. In addition to that, Joel, what you're saying is smart. Like, look at the stuff that's out there, because there's going to be stuff for any instructor. But on top of, you can look at as far as how long someone's been around. Like, I'll use Max as an example. never taken a max class myself, and I don't know the dude personally, but he's been around teaching a long time, and what he does is pretty polished. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit like just the fact that he's been around longer doing it. I think that does help just get like more comfortable. I know for me, I was young when I started. Like I was probably a little too young, but I was pretty young when I started, and I didn't get super comfortable for like 5 years of doing it. You know what I mean? So there is a pattern where USPSA instructors, especially, they get kind of successful in shooting, and then you'll see them go hot and heavy doing classes all over the place for like a year, and then that really slows down. You know what I mean? You guys have seen this pattern play out. You know what I'm talking about? So it's like, if money or whatever is tight, you probably pass on being in the classes for that first year when that person's going hard. And then if you see that they're still around, they're still present, they're still training for years after that, then you're like, okay, so they probably got over the hump of that and like they're still doing it. But there's a lot of people that they do some basic math about how much money they think they can make in a weekend if they're filling up classes. And then they jump at it, for the financial reward they think is going to be there. And then after a year of doing it real hard and traveling a lot and dealing with a lot of strangers and stuff, I mean, it's not for everyone. It's a pretty strange gig. So that can help kind of weed some people out. Whatever. That's my take.
That's very accurate.
Yes, it is. All right. So that's a good one. Let's move on to the next question. Asshole question here, but I'm an asshole, so here it goes. Spent my first year deciding between PCC and production. Shot nationals with PCC, learned a lot, ultimately decided on production. Got to know everyone in my club, started helping out during matches, running a timer, an iPad, etc. And lately it seems like my match suffers because all I do is run guys through or run the pad and score. Doesn't leave the time I would like for stage prep and working on my shit. At sectional, I decided to run an iPad or timer. And I declined to run an iPad or timer, focused on my stage planning, didn't talk to anyone, stayed focused, and ended up winning my division in class. Some of the guys weren't too happy that I didn't help out like I usually do, so I guess I'm an asshole. What is the correct balance between helping out at matches and actually trying to fucking win? I love the club and the shooters, but I want to get better and win matches, just not hobby it up like a lot of these people. All right, so I'm going to say two things here. Like I'll give you two personal experiences for me, like kind of lines I've drawn. Back in my days of when I had to drive an hour and a half to set up the club matches, when I started shooting, I was doing setup a lot. This lasted for a few years. I had to drive an hour and a half to do setup, but I was driving to a shooting range and I wanted to practice, and setup was the day before the match. So I drive down there, and if the other guy, like this was a guy who's a friend of mine now, another section coordinator, but if he was there and he was starting setup, my attitude is like, yeah, fuck you, I'm going to practice. Like I'm going to shoot for an hour before I get hot, sweaty, tired or whatever, and then I'll set up. I'll set up till midnight. I don't care, but I'm going to shoot first. I'm going to do my practice when I'm fresh, And I think like drawing the line there for me was good. That was helpful. And it meant that I could do more productive practice. And I wasn't like just giving over all my time to setting up the match. And then the other thing is, if you're at a club match or really any kind of match and you're working, you're the RO or you're the scorekeeper or you're doing anything, like 2 or 3 shooters before you're up to shoot under normal circumstances. You know what I mean? If there's 10 people on the squad, like you have to assert yourself and hand your job off to someone else. Like you have to put your foot down, hand off your job, focus on your shooting, do your mental rehearsals, shoot, and then, refill your mags or whatever you got to do, and then pick your job back up. So you do have to assert yourself at some point. And like, I think that's where I draw the line, like 2 or 3 people before I shoot, like, I'm not going to do anything now. Like take the timer and I'll take it back later. So, all right, that's what I got. Anybody have maybe a different read on that?
I kind of am more of a dick than you. If I'm 4 people, 5 people down, I'll just, if no one wants to take the timer, I'll just put it down and just fuck off.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way as that. 100%.
You guys are both definitely bigger dickheads than me.
No,
and everyone thinks
I'll
nice.
ask. I'll be like, guys, someone needs to run this, and like if they don't step up and do it, it just gets sat down.
Yeah.
Like
You don't
I
shoot till
refuse at this
someone
point.
grabs it.
Yeah.
Like that's totally acceptable though.
Like everyone's supposed to pull their own weight. I've actually been in a situation before where I was one of 2 ROs on a squad, and it was 20-man squads with a bunch of new shooters, and then
Oh,
you've
sounds
been to
awful.
Richmond. You've been to Richmond too, huh?
That's my main range, actually. But
Go
it
ahead.
was
Sorry.
terrible. I was just talking about how bad it was.
I am MD for our club, I guess, the majority of our club matches. And one thing I think is quite helpful is having a very competent group of people. And everyone doesn't start out that way. So it's more work at first, but like helping other people get up to speed that want to help out and creating a culture where, so like if I'm in charge of setting up, I'm MD and I've got 5 people setting up stages or 6 people. There are people that I know are solid. I'm like, hey, I don't even have to check on that person. Then the next person needs more help. Like, hey, you send people over to help them. And it's the same thing with ROs. Like, hey, you completed your RO class. Are you comfortable, running the timer? Like, they might not volunteer, but if you ask people, hey, would you run the timer? Hey, make sure they have support, whatever. Then, more people get qualified and that's less you have to do it. So you don't want to carry the weight of the world on your back because you're just going to be burned out and frustrated. So like what these guys are saying, you have to, ask other people to help or, train people or encourage other people to step up if they're not comfortable. So they get more comfortable and then it just makes life better for everyone. Because the ideal situation is being in a club match where I've got, let's say half of the squad is an RO, or a third of it. And then it's like, hey, there's everyone that can help out. So I'm sorry, Matt, what are you going to say?
One of the things is you have to pass off that stuff so other people learn it also. Like if you take the tablet and score every time, no one else is going to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to pass it off, or you have to give it to somebody new, explain them what they're doing, and then walk them around it.
Right. And I
them how to do it.
I will say this. This is not to sound too boomerish, but like the RO etiquette and scoring etiquette. I mean, not the rules piece of it, but as far as how people do those jobs, that's loosened up dramatically in the last few years. It used to be like when you were calling off scores as a range officer, people would always be like calling it back to you and be like very communicative. And now it's people just kind of follow behind with the tablet. It's not really clear what they're doing because they're not really verbally communicating that well. That seems like that's loosened up a ton. But I mean, that's where you have an opportunity to explain to people like, hey, maybe you don't see everyone doing this, but this is kind of best practice where it's like you do this job this way and it's for this reason, so that when you're interacting with somebody that you don't know that well, like at a match where you're like away from home or something, then you guys are on the same sheet of music always.
It's also club level dependent. So some of the cultures of the club it's ran just like a major match, like you don't score ahead or anything like that. And some is like, well, you go to the set of the targets on the left and you just pace that and holler scores out at the end while they're scoring the right. It's really club dependent on that. And it's probably actually squad dependent also.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
One thing Richmond did to kind of help up if it's like an issue of just not having enough ROs on a squad is there's kind of a group of people that have agreed to be distributed throughout the match, and basically they make sure that there's enough ROs on every squad so that doesn't happen.
I agree. Ben, I think we knocked that question out of the park. Do you have more, sir?
More questions? I have one more. She's a bit of a doozy. So here we go.
Oh, boy.
Hey, Ben and crew. I'm new to USPSA as of June 2020. I've taken it pretty seriously and I made M class as my initial classification. I make this point not to show that I'm not a fucking idiot and I have above average gun handling skills. I've shot my first major match at Area 8 this past weekend. I got disqualified for sweeping an RO. Obviously, I'm biased, but match video shows that I clearly could not have done what the RO claims I did. Even if I did, there's no way he could have seen it from where he was and how my body was oriented. Turns out the RO who DQ'd me was a 19-year-old D-class shooter who ended up dead last in productive. I'm sorry, I don't mean to. I'm not going to say anymore. Dude. I don't want to dox this. God damn it. Fuck. Anyway, his attitude made it seem that he was there to gotcha rather than do his job fairly. He seemed to take the call personally as well. I shot this match on the same squad as, I'm not going to name this person, but it's one of our boys. So
Let's
maybe
start making it more anonymous.
We'll get a different side of the story if we talk to him, maybe. I stayed for a couple stages after my DQ to help the squad pace. The scoring RO on one of the next stages insisted that shooter X, like our guy, had shot through a prop or whatever. Okay, so basically, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he watched basically a guy get boned on a call, like in his estimation. So I say all this to ask, how can there be so much riding on he said, she said bullshit? Especially when so many ROs seem to take it personally. How can I invest the time and money required to compete in a major match knowing that an egotistical RO can fuck me over just because he feels like it? I feel like I have a lot of potential in this sport, but I almost feel like saying fuck it and buying a set of golf clubs. Are there any rules or checks that could realistically be put in place to prevent the kind of BS that I outlined above? So let's answer the first part of his question first. How can he invest the time and money required to compete in this if this is the kind of the officiating environment? Like let's take I don't think we have to address like whether or not you perceive this to be the environment, but this is what he perceives. How can he invest the time and money? Anybody?
I honestly don't have a fucking good answer for that.
You can't. If this is your perception of the situation, you shouldn't necessarily sell your guns and buy golf clubs, but like if you think going to an area match that there's not gonna be blown calls or there's not gonna be issues, it's not gonna happen like that. And in my estimation, this trend has been headed in the wrong direction for a while, not the right direction. So I don't blame you for feeling this way. And full disclosure, if I started shooting in 2020, as opposed to when I started in 2005, my life would probably take a very different track. Because I'd look at this and be like, yep, I'm not going to go that hard at this because the officiating is pretty lax and I don't like it. So I agree with him on that personally, but I don't have a good answer for it. You just be like, yeah, just don't take it as seriously, because just don't. It's going to piss you off. So don't take it that seriously.
It's weird. So
go ahead, Matt.
I don't know. It's that like I don't know how to get around the judgment calls on 180s or stuff like that.
You don't. There's no way around it.
There's no way around it.
It's literally whatever the RO says is what fucking happened, regardless of if it's true. And I think that's a massive problem, but there's no good answer on how to address it, really.
Oh, well, I'm glad you said that, Stevie. So, no, I mean, the way you'd address it, I would say there's 4 points that I would, well, 5 really. So you could have a 5-point plan to actually address this. So number 1 would be changing stage design, especially for major matches. So if you're going to rigidly enforce a 180-degree safe angle, for example, which makes sense to me, yeah, have a 180 and rigidly enforce it. Okay. Like the stage that you guys were talking about where there's targets set essentially on the safe angle, don't fucking do that. Just don't do it. Don't build stages that way. Like, not as a matter of habit, but like by rule. Like, we're going to build in like a buffer, like 5-10, like some buffer of kind of space where you have a little bit of leeway from where you're engaging the targets to the safe angle. And that's for that reason specifically, to reduce the chance of people, like if we're going to DQ people for breaking the 180 by, we think, 1 degree, then don't put targets anywhere near that. If that's what you're going to do, that would be a stage design thing to change.
And Ben, to briefly add, and then put in walls or barrels or ports or whatever.
Well, so that's already in the rules, but that's not really enforced.
Yeah, if I see a target, I can shoot it. Like, that's, if any match IMD, that's the rule.
That's
my
the rule in the rule book, Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
That's not Joel's law. That's actually a rule, but that's not.
I think it's 2.1 or something.
Followed.
Okay.
So that would be one way. So changing stage design, like I would also say arbitration is a process that looks good on paper. In practice, it's completely fucked and broken. No, I mean,
Joke.
honestly,
It's a joke.
It is.
it's a joke.
It's just
You don't
it's a
have
donation. Yeah.
You do not have a way to push back on calls you disagree with in a meaningful way that forces the people running the show to actually address them. It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem because arbitration's a fucking joke. As far as weeding out bad ROs, like if there are ROs going around looking to DQ people and enjoying doing that, which we all know they're out there, there are bad ROs out
We've
there.
all shot enough that we know they exist.
Yes, they exist. Again, there is a process for disciplining ROs. I've never heard of an RO being disciplined in any way, shape, or form. And with an organization as big as we have now, there should be ROs losing their credentials occasionally, like if that process were taken seriously. But it's not. It's a fucking joke. So there's no check put on range officer in that way. And again, that's a problem.
My first major match ever, I think it was like my third stage. There was an RO that he made it a habit. He did it to, I believe, 6 different shooters on an unloaded start, claiming they all put 11 in the gun, just like habitually accusing production shooters of doing it. Turns out he was shooting production and he was trying to open.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of stuff that'd be like, you're going to lose what ought to happen is you ought to lose his RO credentials. Mm-hmm. And then maybe that's where you maybe like, are you cheating? Are you trying to host people? But yeah, that would be a realistic change. And then a culture shift as far as ROing, as a thing. It should not be an anti-shooter thing. Everybody should act as an RO on some level, meaning we're all responsible to make sure the match is safe and fair, and everybody kind of takes ownership over that, even if they're not the RO. Everybody should be kind of keeping an eye on things, and then ROs themselves should have a pretty, I would say I'd like to see a less authoritarian attitude from some of them, and I would like to see a more active attitude from a lot. A lot of ROs kind of act powerless to solve problems. Whereas so you guys are at Area 8, there's a stage that clearly isn't going to work. It's a problem, and you're actually surprised that it gets dumped day 1 of the match.
100%
because we all know that the normal thing is they never want to lose a stage, even if when it's fucked and it's causing a lot of problems. Typically, people wait way too long to go and actively address a problem. They wait until the problem becomes so big they can't ignore it. And that, again, that's a problem. And I think it's because we really don't have a way to push back on poor range officering or poor match management. There is no effective way for you to have a protest, or not. I don't mean like a political protest, but I mean protest. I mean protest the call. Yeah, I mean
burn it down.
Yeah, I mean hey, this call or this stage is fucked up, and then actually force the match to address the issue. There's no system in place to do that. That's not how it works. Yeah. And again, it'd be cool if arbitration got kind of reformed so it actually was effective. You know what I mean?
I think a good way to start that would be to allow video in.
I was just about to.
Oh, that was good. Shit. I said 5. That was the 5th thing. Yeah, allowing video.
I agree.
Especially on 11 in the gun or whatever, that should easily be arbitratable with video. If you have a video and it's shooting 10 rounds and the slide locks back.
The thing is, the attitude right now from the guys up top is they're just not interested in having this conversation.
No, not at all.
They're not interested. They made the call. Go fuck yourself is the attitude, and that's it. And they don't understand. This is the other side of it. This is a guy's hey, why should I invest my life into this? And this is me, a guy who's invested his life into this, saying yeah, I don't blame you. You probably shouldn't. You should probably you should invest your life in something else, because I don't see this situation changing. And if this situation bothers you, you're probably just going to get more bothered the more effort you put into it.
It's called talking yourself out of a sale. And I hate to do that, but if he's already at this point, if he's not hooked, I can't wait to do this more, this early in, if he's already having a lot of reservations.
I don't think you're hearing it. The dude is all about shooting sport. Yeah. He just doesn't like the way matches are officiated.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of why I pulled back from matches for a while. I preferred training over going to the matches because it was just a whole fucking thing that I just didn't want to deal with. you know.
Yeah.
But I love training, so I would train a fuck ton, but I wouldn't go to matches.
Yeah, well, there it is. Well, that's the questions we have, guys. So, Joel, you should take us out of the show. Hey, hold on. Stefan, if you'd like to win an area match in single stack by 67% like Steve Newell did, you should sign up for the class that Steve Newell and I are putting on in California. How do I register for that, Steven?
How do I get a hold of that? Yeah.
I want to win by 75%, just like Steve did. Tell me more. How do we accomplish that?
If you're interested in taking this class, it's September 26th and 27th, the last weekend of September, at Richmond Rod and Gun Club. It's in the Bay Area. Email newellshooting@gmail and just let me know. And then
if you forget his email address, go to bensteger.com, click on take a class, scroll down till you see the California dates, and then it'll have Steve's email address there so you can register for the class. Please don't be one of the people that goes to my website, scrolls down, finds the class, looks at the class contact organizer email, and then emails me. Don't be that person.
Just Instagram message him.
That is not.
just DM Ben. Yeah.
I just read that. I'm like, God damn it! Like,
this is the first time he's not.
What are you talking to me for? I have organizers for this. Like, I can't register you for my class. I know that sounds weird to you, but I can't do that. I don't have the ability to make that happen. We got to get this person involved because I don't have time to run this shit. I don't have time to do anything. Anyway.
This is true. All right. Well, on that note, I think it was a bang up show, guys.
Yeah, been out, fuckers.
Hey, listeners, if you have a question you'd like the answer to, go to my website, bensteger.com. Send us a question. We'd love to hear from you. Are they okay?